Welcome to episode 7, my dear folks. Today we're going to elaborate and demonstrate a bit more on the creative play that happens in the music therapy process. This is, of course, one of the most essential parts about the music therapy process. And this goes for other arts therapy modalities as well. This goes for life in general, especially. That's what therapy is all about. I do recommend you watch episode 3 first, where I introduce the tools and the instruments and the toys, what have you, that are involved in the creative process and what I would probably bring to you in a session. In that episode, I also provide a little demonstration where my husband and I are improvising on a couple of instruments together, just to show what we can do with them. Today I'm bringing Dan back so we can dive a little more deeply, or delve, I actually don't really know, and just show you a few more combinations of instruments and what they can do and the effect they have. Since Dan is also a guinea pig in this situation, he will also be sharing with both me and all of you how the process affected him. But first, let me elaborate a little bit on the sheer importance of play. So to give you an idea, we know that if children whose brains are still in the developmental process, if children don't play, if they don't stimulate their minds with what's around them, then they're going to experience arrested development. That's how incredibly crucial play and exploration is for the developing human mind and animal minds as well. Adults, it's not as crucial as that, but it's not very healthy still to ignore play. So what even is play, really? How do we play? Where can we find play? I suppose one could say you play an instrument, and how does one play an instrument? By learning and exploring, thus resulting in play. In art, one can play with the mediums, and so you get a bunch of mediums there like pastels or crayons or pens or paints, and you play with them. You see what can you do with them. Now, where a lot of adults experience blockage in this area, one might even say jadedness, is they're so used to doing what's right or having somebody else tell them what to do that most of us have generally lost this sense, this need to play, this need to find things out by ourselves, by exploring. It's not just any type of exploration, it's a mindful exploration as well. So you're calm, you're grounded, and you're making things happen. When you look at a kid playing with dolls or Legos or making things talk or building things, what are they doing? They don't look stressed, unless you're me and you're trying to make Mr. Potato Head stand up and he wouldn't stand up. There's a home video of me getting really mad about that, but that's really what we need to do, not only to see progress in ourselves, but to see progress in the world. This is why something like musical play would make such an excellent and essential force in the workplace and on management teams and hopefully even political environments. As adults, it might also make us feel a bit vulnerable, especially when your peers or coworkers are all around you exploring with the same thing. You may think some generally toxic things that we're conditioned to think. And I'll remind you that just because toxic thoughts aren't good doesn't mean they're not normal either. You might feel vulnerable because you're going to look at your peer or coworker and think, oh, they're judging me for the way I'm playing, or oh, they're playing so much better than me, oh, they're such a natural at this. What will others think of me if I play this way? I mean, you're expressing yourself, and that's pretty vulnerable, isn't it? But that's all right. That's normal. Your coworker is probably feeling like that too. Think, in what ways are thoughts like that inhibiting your work without you even knowing it? You'll see why this part of music therapy is so incredibly important, and by providing these demonstrations in this video, I do hope to quell a little bit of that fear of the unknown there. So this time I've just divided my instruments into 2 simple parts. We've got our rhythmic instruments here, a little pile there. And behind me and on the couch, we've got our pitched instruments there. And yeah, we've got some new characters here as that probably weren't in the last video, but if you're super curious about each instrument, I give more of a detailed description about what each one is and the sound they make. Episode 3. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate with Dan is more synonymous to, obviously, a one-to-one session. And what happens more often than not is, I'm a professional musician. I majored in harp performance, and I've been trained. And so what will happen more often than not is you'll have me and maybe somebody who's dabbled in at piano or something, or maybe never touched an instrument in their life, or maybe they're even better than I am. We're all music therapists have learned to adapt to any and all different type of clientele in these situations. Dan is probably the most average. He's not a professional musician, but he sings with the church choir sometimes. I've kind of taken over that in his place now. He learned piano up through grade 8. And as you probably saw in episode 3, he's had some pretty good rhythm, and everybody's got some good rhythm on them, I think. This will be a pretty average one-to-one session here. So like I said, we'll be improvising on a couple minutes or just a brief time of different combinations of instruments each, and then process afterward the effects and what it sounded like and such. So now I'll bring him in. Now, what did you notice, both good and bad? Good or bad, and or.
Good and or. Well, it was a bit of an interesting combination of instruments, and not one that I'd go back to again, but I think it was an interesting combination of sounds. I think we kept a good rhythm together. It was a little harsh on the ears, the clackety-clack, and I might have been a little bit over-enthusiastic with my clackety-clacking.
What do you think drove that enthusiasm?
It's the first time I've played one of those in a very long time. I've played them before, and it was interesting to have another play because it felt good. Feels good on my wrist, and it's a loud, quite satisfying sound.
And yet it's such a simple contraption
it's very
too.
Simple, yes.
It's something you would use at a football game.
Yes.
We're talking about different football games here. You're imagining soccer, I'm imagining the pigskin.
Oh yeah, you do that, and it might drive people crazy if you're sitting behind them, but nonetheless good fun.
Now, I personally wouldn't call the auto harp very pleasant. It was quite out of tune. Did you notice that?
I did, and I thought you were tuning it whilst I was waiting, and so then I realised you were playing, and it was going to remain out of tune for the duration of the exercise.
Both of them had quite a harsh sound. How did you respond to that?
I didn't feel strong feelings, however, I felt like it maybe went on a bit longer than I would have hoped. I was eager to explore some different combinations once I'd discovered that that particular combination wasn't the most pleasant sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I say roll on the next one, and now I've got a bit of an idea of what we're doing.
So it didn't make you want to immediately give up and be like, this is stupid.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
Made you want to try something else then.
Yeah, well, I tried some different rhythms with it, and it was okay, but yeah, looking forward to further experimentation.
See how this can get metaphorical. Mm-hmm. All right, next
Thank you.
one.